Good night. Today, I'm going to talk about IFEMA. The content is divided into a clinic case, scientific evidence, and take-home points. On September 24, a 69-year-old patient arrives for an ophthalmological consultation. He is from Mexico. His occupation is mechanic. His chief complaint is decreased vision for 2 years. He has systemic diseases, diabetes for 50 years, and high blood pressure for 10 years. Visual acuity, counting fingers are 3 meters in both eyes. IOP with normal limits in both eyes. Nasal region in left eye. Deep anterior chamber. A cataract in both eyes. With looks classified, cataract of the right eye is nuclear 5 and subcapsular 2. And in the left eye, a cataract is nuclear and subcapsular 2. The fundus present red reflex in both eyes and attachment retina accessed by B scan in both eyes. Management includes evaluation by internal medicine and planning for a cataract surgery using a small incision cataract surgery technique. After clinical evaluation by internal medicine, he underwent surgery on November 20, the right eye, and on November 21st, the left eye. The post-surgery of the right eye was identified, visual acuity 20/40, IOP in normal limits, subconjunctival hemorrhage, stromal edema, deep anterior chamber, and cells with gonioscopy present open angle in 360 degrees and intraocular lens in capsular bag. In the post-surgical management, it was indicated moxifloxacin 0.5% 6 times a day for 10 days, prednisolone 6.5% 6 times a day, and then tapering. Bromfenac 0.9% twice a day for a month. It was indicated to go to the operating room for surgery on the left eye. While in the post-surgery of the left eye was identified a visual acuity 20/40, IOP 19 millimeters, subconjunctival hemorrhage, nasal region, stromal edema, no saddle, some cells, in gonioscopy, open angle in 360 degrees, intraocular lens in capsular bag. In post-surgical management, include moxifloxacin, prednisone, and bromfenac in both eyes. The next check-up in 1 month. 5 days after, on November 25, the patient come reporting decreased vision in his right eye for the past 3 days. No referring trauma history. In the ophthalmological evaluation, the right eye present visual acuity, move hands at 1 meter, intraocular pressure 25 millimeters, subconjunctival hemorrhage, clear cornea, the anterior chamber depth, a blood clot, and IFEMA, grade 1. With gonioscopy, see a small clot superior, in superior angle, open angle nasal and temporal, and difficult to evaluate inferior angle. Pupil reactive intraocular lens in capsular bag. Fundus difficult to evaluate. And attached retina access by B-scan. This is a picture of the right eye. In the anterior chamber is a blood clot, edema, grade 1, that presents less than 33%. This is the picture of the left eye. Here the patient have subconjunctival hemorrhage and nasal pterygium. Diagnosis, differential diagnosis. Traumatic edema is ruled out since there is not history of trauma. Neovascular glaucoma is ruled off since the patient prior to surgery did not show the presence of neovascularization in the iridocorneal angle or iris. After surgery, the fundus did not present diabetic retinopathy. The cornea appears clear. There is not a vascular compromise in the chamber angle. The pupil appears reactive and the fundus appears unchanged. In the uveitis glaucoma hyphema syndrome is ruled out since there is no chronic mechanic trauma of the IOL against the iris, ciliary body, or structures of the iridocorneal angle. The diagnosis is post-cataract surgery hyphema. Bleeding into the anterior chamber can come from following sources only: from conjunctival newly formed blood vessels, from the iris and the ciliary body, or from choroidal detachment. The management was bed rest and was based on the use of oral and topic steroids and antibiotic drugs were continued, and the hypotensive treatment was started in the right eye, while in the left eye, the previous indications maintained and next checkup in 3 days. The ophthalmological control 3 days after the diagnosis of hyphema identified poor visual acuity, intraocular pressure 12 millimeters, subconjunctival hemorrhage, corneal blood staining, anterior chamber dip, and blood clot and cells. For this reason, we decided to perform an anterior chamber washout. After anterior chamber washout, visual acuity was 12/60, IOP 12 millimeters, subconjunctival hemorrhage, corneal blood staining inferior, cells in anterior chamber and deep anterior chamber. Post-surgery management was based on topical antibiotics, steroid and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. The next consultation was planned for wind and a month. This picture shows the pre-washout and the post-washout. We can see a big improvement in the second image. A month later, visual acuity improved in right eye, and in the left eye represents 20/40. Best visual correct acuity 20 hours. IOP in normal limits, intraocular lens in capsular bag, pupil reactive in both eyes, fundus present attached retina microneurims only in the upper nasal quadrant, macula normal, up to disc radius 0.1 in right eye, and in the left eye, attached retina microneurims only in the lower nasal quadrant, macula normal, and cube to disc radius 0.1. Oh. IFEMA may be a benign condition that results without significant sequelae under certain circumstances. However, the patient with IFEMA may develop a recurrent bleeding for uncontrolled intraocular pressure, which may lead to visual loss from glaucoma. There are numerous causes for bleeding into the anterior chamber: traumatic, surgical, and spontaneous. Postoperative ephemas presumably result from neovascularization of the wound margin, conjunctival bleeding through to the wound, traumatized iris vessels, or chronic iris erosion from sulfacus. IFEMA clinical grade system, it is divided into 4 grades. Grade 1 present a layered blood occupying less than 1/3 of the anterior chamber. Grade 2 represent blood fillings 1/3 to 1/2 of anterior chamber. Grade 3 present layered blood fillings 1/2 to less than total of the anterior chamber. Grade 4 represent total blood often referred to as 8-ball or black IFEMA. Complications of IFEMA: increase intraocular pressure. Almost 30% of patients with IFEMA have an increase of IOP. Early increase of IOP happen when in obstruction of trabecular meswork, erythrocytes, hemolytic glaucoma, gloss cells glaucoma, pupillary block glaucoma, and late increase the IOP happens with fibrosis of trabecular meswork, hemosiderotic glaucoma, peripheral anteriorosynec, and pupillary block glaucoma. Rebleeding or secondary hemorrhage occurs in 0.4% to 35% of patients, usually happen at 2 to 7 days. Rebleeding can be recognized clinical by the following characteristics: an increase in the size of IFEMA, presence of a layer of the fresh blood over the older clot in the anterior chamber, dispersed erythrocytes over the clot after the blood has settling, corneal blood staining. Corneal blood staining after IFEMA has been reported in some cases. The incidence increase in the presence of large IFEMAs, secondary hemorrhage, prolonged clot retraction, sustained increase in IOP, and presence of previous endothelial dysfunction. In children, a corneal blood staining may be further complicated by amblyopia. Management of the patient with hyphema. The patient who presents with blood in the anterior chamber needs through history take and medical evaluation performed to identify risk factors for the bleeding episode and for future complications. Bed rest with head elevation allows blood to layer inferiorly. This will promote visual rehabilitation and prevents a clot formation in the pupillary axis. Anticoagulants and antiplatelet medication increase the risk of a spontaneous hemorrhage. For this reason, it's important to avoid. Mydriatic cycloplegic agents decrease the risk of development of posterior synex, provides greater comfort in patients with concurrent uveitis, and permits visual of the posterior pole and reducing the risk of secondary hemorrhage. For the iris or ciliary body by immobilization these tissues. Topical corticosteroids are useful in preventing rivulets. They may stabilize the blood-ocular barrier. And anti-glaucoma medication to control the elevation of IOP. When to consider anterior chamber. Clinical indication for surgical evacuation are a large hyphema, high IOP, active bleeding, and corneal blood staining. And the criteria to anterior chamber wash proposed by Red and Glodberg are when IOP greater than 60 millimeters for 2 days. The other when IOP greater than 24 millimeters over the first 24 hours of if repeat IOP speaks more than 30 millimeters. When IOP greater than 25 millimeters with total hyphema for 5 days. When microscopic corneal blood staining, and when hyphema fails to resolve to less than 50% of the anterior chamber wall after 8 days. Take-home points. Most patients fully recovered without any long-term problems. Intraocular pressure can rise after hyphema. The likelihood of retaining normal vision after the hyphema also depends on the severity of the hyphema. It's important to identify risk factors of hyphema and preference.
Great presentation, Ana. I just had a quick question. So why do you think the hyphema happened in your patient?
I think that the patient have a subconjunctival hemorrhage, and I think the bleeding start in sclera and go into the anterior chamber. And I think that this happened.
I have a question too. Do you know if there is if during the surgery there was any iris trauma, or did they stretch the iris or something like that?
No, the patient don't have any, no, don't need retractors or stretching during the surgery.
Rupert, you want to make a comment?
Yeah. Hi, Anna. You mentioned, hello. You mentioned both eyes had macular aneurysms. I was just curious what workup was done, or was there any workup necessary? Was there any association with the macular aneurysms and the hyphema?
No,
So no workup and no.
no, we don't.
She means that they didn't study the patient after finding the macro aneurysms.
Mm-hmm. And my second question is, in the United States, we have a lot of people that take supplements or things that we wouldn't necessarily record in the medical record, like ginkgo biloba or vitamin E that are blood thinners. Are there things in Guatemala that people take for supplements that can cause blood thinning that we would not necessarily know about?
Yes, we usually say to the patients after, before the cataract surgery or any eye surgery to stop using any vitamins, ginkgo biloba, some garlic supplements, moringa, or any other natural remedy that they can take. And also avoiding NSAIDs other than paracetamol or aspirin.
I think we have a question from Michael. We're very glad to have Michael Jumper, who's a retina specialist in San Francisco, joining us tonight. Michael will be joining us on our April trip. He's a well-known retina person in San Francisco, and thank you, Michael, for joining us.
Thank you, Anna. Very good presentation. I agree with you. I do think that probably this is having to do with the remodeling and vascular changes that happen anytime you make a scleral wound. And sometimes those vascular changes that occur can lead to, bleeding. I've seen this in patients who've had trabeculectomy, and they have, vascular changes in the area of the trabeculectomy, and they'll get recurrent bleeds into the bleb, and that sometimes gets into the anterior chamber. I've also seen it in retinal surgery, in which we'll do, when we put in our ports, we can get vascular growth in that area, especially in a diabetic. When you first presented the case, I was very concerned that with cataract surgery, you had just exposed the anterior chamber to the high levels of VEGF in the vitreous cavity from, significant diabetic retinopathy. And sometimes you don't really see the retinopathy, especially if they've already had a posterior vitreous detachment, because they have a lot of ischemic changes, but not as much, no neovascularization necessarily, and not that obvious of retinopathy. We sometimes call it featureless retina. And so those are things to look for. If I had seen the patient like you had, I would have considered doing an angiogram of the other eye, just to see, is that a very ischemic eye that could be the cause for the hyphema, and then maybe even consider an Avastin injection to just hedge in case there was neovascularization. But the things you told me that made me think it's not that is, number one, the iris, the pupil was reactive. Usually you get ectropion UVA and the pupil doesn't becomes non-reactive. And it looked so good after you'd removed the blood that I don't, I think I agree with your diagnosis.
Anybody else want to make a comment?
Maybe a question really would be, given our setting at the hospital and the fact that we have a very vibrant laboratory, what testing do they have available to them at the hospital? Like, could you do a prothrombin time? Could you do a clotting factor? What do you think would be available in our laboratory to test for the possible causes of the extra bleeding?
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they can do clotting times. Probably if they're prolonged times. I'm not sure if they can do like a vitamin K measurement, but that would, probably send the patient somewhere else. But I'm pretty sure they can do some clotting assessments. But I think it was well handled, and the patient turned out very well. And but I agree with Mike. Maybe we should, follow up with him and see if he's got if we could do an angiogram in that patient would be great. Now that we have the new camera, maybe that'd be great to do for him.
Yeah. We will do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. Nice
Thank
to meet you.
All right, guys. There's no more comments. I think it was a great case.
There's a couple other things that I thought about with
Yeah.
this, if you don't mind.
No,
The first
go ahead.
one, okay. So the other issue that I think is very interesting is the uveitis glaucoma hyphema syndrome. I gave a presentation on this and learned a lot. And the first thing is that, especially in a smaller eye, even putting a one-piece acrylic lens in the bag can create the UGG syndrome. Now, I wouldn't expect it to happen this quickly after a cataract surgery, but and this IOL was probably different than that. But I do think that UGG syndrome, especially you have to consider it in somebody that has, say, a smaller eye, a high hyperope, who, and I would guess that in Guatemala there are a few of those that you see. That you have to consider. Even a perfectly placed bag in the bag IOL can sometimes cause a UGH. Now, I don't think that was the cause here, but I think it's an interesting thing that I learned about. So just something to consider.
If I can add to that, I've seen late presentation of hyphemas, even with vitreous hemorrhage, in patients who've had in the bag IOLs with pseudoexfoliation that chafe the posterior face of the iris, and that can cause hyphema with vitreous hemorrhage, and it takes about a week for those to clear up, especially in those older patients that are taking anticoagulants. I've seen a couple of cases of that. And it's one of those cases that you don't want to go into because they can't take off the anticoagulants. And you don't want to bring into the OR, and they don't want to be off the anticoagulants. So I just wait for about a week, and it clears up. I've seen a couple of cases like that. So that's in the late stage. This is very early after the surgery, but in the late cases, that can also be a cause.
And a great presentation. Thank you for your work on it. I know you did a lot of research and discussion, and thank you so much. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great.